Good morning, church. You are very cooperative people. We thank God for that. The questions are basically just we get feedback. We get feedback. Then we can share a comment on too. The questions that you cannot answer should be a question that you really cannot answer, and we can tell, isn't it? Yes. So, for instance, if Agnes says she cannot answer the question, she thinks she cannot, right? But we look at the questions and we'll determine, right? Yes, and determine whether she should give an alternative question or not. See, gift ni yake, si ndio? The gifts are without. Yes. So we just shuffle it, Yeah. So the essence of it is so that we, there are things we take for granted. Some things that are normal or presumptions that we make and all that. And this is to enable us to engage and know what's our take on this? What's our take on this issue? What's our take on the next issue? And whatnot, especially at relationship level. So without further ado, the first question is it Pastor Danny? No less. I think it's very prophetic. He was here last week telling us weighty things. And so, Danny, you can just take on the question and tell us what's your take on it.
Is dating necessary for a Christian? Should I answer or I give to Mrs. Harut? Well, what is dating first of all? I think dating is you've seen someone and you want to create some friendship with them. So you just go straight, zero in on them, begin to be nice to them. Then as time goes, the person maybe proves themselves or you prove them that they are now for the next level to courtship or not. That's what I think dating is. And for me, I don't think dating is necessary for a Christian. I am saying I don't think dating is necessary for a Christian. And for me, what I think is the main thing, I think, is a courtship. My view is that as people zero in on someone, a lot of things comes in. People's hearts get connected, and in the process of proving one another, if you realize maybe the person is not the one, because you just jumped into it, then later on there's a lot of quitting and calling off, and people's hearts are really messed up. And so my view will be, or what I usually prefer, is if I just know I'm not like Paul, and therefore one day I'll end up getting married or marrying someone. I would prefer relating in, being in groups of people of like pleasure and like faith, and in the same groups where you're relating, no strings attached. We are Christians, you are brethren, we love God. You get into activities, different activities, especially now youth activities, going out there, doing stuff together, cleaning those cars together, going for those holidays together, those camping together, hiking together. In the process of that, people don't have the pressure. There's no pressure towards being a performer or performing towards anyone. There you're not under pressure to really please anyone. You're just yourself. And in the process of being yourself, you can easily know, now get to know based on your relationship with God, you'll get to know people now that you can relate on another level.
Wow. Wow. Wow, that's awesome. Clearly, there. Can somebody pass the mic there? Yes. Now, let me ask. When you want to buy something, and I'm just doing a spin-off of that. If you want to buy something, you can buy it from a salesperson, or you can ask somebody you trust. That's true. You want to buy maybe a car, a dress, a shoe, a property. You can talk to the salesperson selling that item, or you can ask somebody you trust. Which one do you think is more prudent? Both of them might probably persuade you to buy the item, but which one is the more prudent way? The person you trust, right? Pardon me? Okay, thank you. Yeah, the person you trust. So there's a salesperson. The salesperson must make the sell. It's in their interest. They are in fact conflicted. Yes, their interest is themselves. Right? It's like insurance policy. Sorry for those who are in insurance. Agnes, she's not here. That's good for me. You know, they'll come and really pitch something, you know, and really pitch. And it looks beautiful and glitzy and all that. But you know, what you don't see is a fine print in that until the incident arises. And when the incident arises, that's when you'll find it very prudent to visit Nelson or visit me or see Dorcas. Because there are some small disclaimers there that you didn't see. And sometimes that might be the distinction between the courtship and dating. When you bring on our A game, there's an outcome I have in mind. And it's nothing wrong with bringing on my A game. It's just that my A game might not be the complete me. But the person is signing up for the complete me. Because once you've put pen to paper, like on that insurance contract, what do you think happens? You've signed up. Yes. Yeah. I don't know if anybody has any thought on that. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, Daktari herself. Yes, please. For all the single people, yes, thank you. Daktari is seated between two pastors. She's looking awesome. Now, if any single person did not notice, please, you need to repent. Pardon? I'm a Daktari. We don't know.
No, I have been coerced. Give an opinion.
Godly coercion.
Yes.
Thank you.
You see, I disagree with Danny.
Okay. Thank you.
Because, in my opinion, dating is making friends with everyone. Yes? Making friends with everyone. So I think when you date, you see John, you see Hosea, you see Moses, you see Eric. Yes? We go out with the four of them for bowling or something, and we get to know. Then, when either of them decides it's eating, then they approach eating. And then they quote eating. Then it's exclusive. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. Thank you. No. Just hold it there. Thank you, Edith, for that. And I think it gives it context. You know what I'm realizing? Could it be definitions? The interpretation of dating and the interpretation of dating. Yes, perspective. Because ultimately, that entire interaction is supposed to get you to know somebody. right? Ultimately, you don't sign up to things you don't know, other than in our parents' days when you're told, from today, this is your wife, go home, start life, right? That's interesting. The men who are mentioned. No. Doctor, I have the mic. I've not even said anything about it. The doctor is already up in arms. You know, she's my consultant when I have legal issues in the medical field. And no. You conclude. I just said the men who are mentioned. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Please, the men who are mentioned, take ease. I'm not coming for you. We are not even interpreting anything. So it is well. Yeah, and you don't need to walk out of the church now. So nobody will ask you anything.
At least they are reaching out. They are taking care of our girls. I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Thank you. I just need to just have one take on it. Then I move to the next question. Thank you. Please. Mrs. Governor herself. Should I start?
Yeah, I just want to take on your last analogy. When you say if you're buying something, do you go with the person selling, or do you ask the person you trust? Either way will give you a result, right? And either of those results may be good or not, right? So I just wanted to say that when it comes to marriage, the person you trust is who? And I want to put the person that we trust when it comes to marriage should be God.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because all of us can package ourselves and can sell ourselves in the ways whether we are dating them or we are courting, but what does God say? So for the singles here, the Lord hears and He will answer your prayers. So ask Him if you trust Him. That's what I say.
Amen. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Yes. I think after Ms. Governor has spoken, it's only proper that you don't dilute it, right? Yeah. It's not even good manners. Thank you. And honestly, when you think about it, look, if God can't sort you, nobody can.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So now, I don't know who has a number two. The number two question. Hey, Kiongozi, it is you. Hey, that's a man full of depth and wisdom. Just listen to the question and listen to the answer.
Hi, church. Hi. Number 2. Is it okay for a born again Christian to consider marrying someone who is not born again?
No.
Personally, I don't think it's okay. But to expound on this, I have my personal MC. He's going to explain more.
I support him. Yeah, because in the book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14 says, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light and darkness?" So I don't think it's wise to marry someone who is not saved in church. That's church. But out here, I think it depends on that person. Because myself, I was married when I was not born again. until I met him. He introduced me to Jesus Christ. Then I came to church. He introduced me to church. And in church, I got born again. So I think it depends on the person. When you approach this person, is she ready to change or is he ready to change? It's you to see. If that person are you ready to change, that's when you just find another person, another partner. Because I believe if someone is ready to change, and for example, Joe was born again, so inamaanishange nioa because I wasn't born again. But again, you see, it was him to do his duty, to introduce me to Christ, which he did. I came to church and then I got born again. That's my opinion, but I support him.
But you didn't do that.
Thank you.
Okay. I just need one take before I can throw in a comment. Nabi, how are you? You're fine? I greet you in the name of the Lord. He's already responding as I'm greeting him, formulating an answer. Oh dear. Do you want to give us a take?
I agree with Joe that, and that scripture that was quoted, we should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers as a rule in relationships and leading up to marriage. But I'll also like to just balance it off with the scenario. I really like the scenario she's described. There are those who get married, when they're not born again. And then whilst in marriage, one partner gets born again. So again, the scripture exhorts us, to live in such a way that we can win over the other person to Christ, whether it's husband or wife. So if you're in marriage and you're not born again, both of you, and one gets born again, then you should not separate because the other is not born again. So it's just good to put that in context. Then lastly, whilst it's important to note that as believers, that's the rule, we should also be aware of the fact that our young ones would many times engage in relationships with unbelievers. So we should be cognitive of that, guide them and help them. But what happens if they choose to finally marry them? I don't think there's a hard and fast rule that we must deny them that, because there's a way in which God can work through that. That's my take.
Thank you. That's interesting. To consider. Yes? To consider. Sorry, Nelson and I are sticklers for words. Yeah. Ral's hand is up. Ral, I'll give you a minute, then I wrap it.
My question is, I have a question in line to that, very direct. When we are told we should get married to someone who is born again, then my question is, what is the measure of this being born again? Because sometimes when you meet people, they ask you, is this person born again? No. It's like they're expecting you to get married to a bishop.
Yes.
So, what is this? What is the measure? Is it gauge 1, gauge 2, gauge 3?
Just to expound, if you're already at gauge 3, is it an equally yoked if you marry gauge 1?
Wait, and I have another question.
Okay. Yes, one here, then I can.
Okay, I've married born again. He has backslid. What happens?
Okay.
No. See,
Okay. That's not the answer she wanted. Please, don't force it on her. Yes. Okay. Now, Mama Jaya. Okay, please. You know, if Mama Jaya asks a question now, who will answer it? Okay, I'm joking.
Yes. What's the definition of being born again? What's your definition of being born again? Receiving Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. If you have not understood that one, you will marry the three. You get? When somebody says, when they say that we are not expecting you to marry a bishop, but we are expecting you to work with the statutes of what God has given. What has God said in His Word? You know, always go back to the Word of God. Always go back to the Word of God. Do not be unequally yoked. It means whether you desire it or you believe it or not, it means do not marry an unbeliever. So let me give you just a good example. Okay, so let me give you an example of somebody who is yes.
They should not marry an unbeliever. They should have a believer. But then it is like who believer or gani.
Hapana, si juu ya gauge.
There's no question they ask.
but that's the question.
Okay, what is the question here?
He is already born again.
He's born again.
Yes.
So
That's enough to qualify.
yeah, that's enough for him to qualify to be your husband because he's born again. Standard. Now see where we walk. Yes. You get yes. Because let me tell you, in this life, you can get married to a believer. Yes. And then you see, getting married or getting born again, that is just a start. There's work here. There's a lot of work. Yes. But
just for the sake of the marriage.
yes.
There is also that fact that I'm getting born again to marry.
Yes.
Then
Thank
after
you.
that,
Yes. Thank you. Yes. So with that, by the way, for me, I think the place that you need to fight most is in the spirit. Actually, pray. Pray and find out from God. For me, that is where pray. When you are praying, God will. And you know, these girls, we know, but you still want to go. We see these signs, but still want to go there, which is fine. If you are able to fight that battle, there is the grace. Not getting married to an unbeliever that does not mean you go to hell. But my friend, there are things you will do here. Amen?
Yeah, just hold it. Now, can we agree on one thing? God's standards don't change. I think we need to make peace with that. Yes? God's standards don't change. Now, it could be, we can make mistakes. None of us here is perfect. I mean, if you ask my household, I'm fairly iniquitous. Routinely. And I'm forgiven just as much, you know, as recent as this morning. Cindy, baby. Yes. Now, my point is this. God's standard is here. We fall foul of it. Even if we fall foul of it, He'll forgive us. He might restore us. He'll probably restore us. He'll work with us in our weaknesses and navigate us to where we're supposed to be. But He doesn't change His standards. His standards never change. That's number one. Number two, we have to agree. God is a father. When the disciples asked Jesus, teach us how to pray, He said, when you pray, say, our Father. That's a father. If you're going to negotiate to get a girl from her father, those of us who are men, you know, that man looks out for her. If he's at least most fathers, he looks out for her. He's if it is show any sign of ukora, yes, I'm telling you. We went somewhere with a friend of mine. I'm looking at this pillar. At this pillar next to my meal. And we were well received. Yes, we left smiling. But the man made it clear that, no, you're not just going to, it's not a walk in the park. He's a father. So every last requirement, every last standard, every last obligation he imposes, it's not for him. It's for us. It's for our good. You know, sometimes we approach this like headmaster. Anataka we obey just so that he can feel good. No, God has no ego issues at all. Whether you obey or not, he's still God. It doesn't reduce him. But it's for our good, right? Now, I had something from John Cosson going to that question. That when Adam found Eve, he said, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Now, part of discovering bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, you have to do what Mrs. Governor said. Sit with God. He loves you. He'll show you whether this is a fellow or not. He speaks. God is not deaf. I mean, God is not mute. He speaks. He'll talk to you directly through others, through dreams. I mean, we've been here. We have seers here. If you're not sure, talk to the seers. People come in the school of the prophet. I mean, look, it must make sense, isn't it? Otherwise, why are we seers? Why are we prophetic if it cannot work in our own lives? It must work. So, at least have the sense to find out who's bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. And then I think I heard John Cosson say that, look, it's okay. I can be a villager and marry a PhD. That's fine. No problem with it. I can be newly born again and marry a grade 7 bishop. No problem. Yes? But let me tell you, you'll work harder. It will work, but you'll work harder. Yes. Now, if you're working hard because God put you there, it's okay. If you're working hard because you put yourself there, now, surely. You know, it's like there's a season for planting. It rains, you're just seated. Then after it's over, now you go looking for jerry cans to water. Come on. Just plant at the right time. It will be watered naturally. You don't have to work as hard. That's true? Yeah. So the solutions are just here, simple and straightforward. God loves me. God watches over me. Everything He's required of me is because He loves me. So when I'm obeying, I'm doing myself good, not Him. I'm doing me good. I'm doing me good. I'll work less. I'll sleep better. Yes. Some things will still come. You remember the house, the parable of the house. The one who put on the sand and the one who put on the rock, both of them contended the storm. So storms will come, irrespective on which side. But whether you survive the storm or not depends on whether or not you build it right. Do you want to be a casualty? We should not be casualties. We shouldn't be casualties. So when God says, do this, to the best of our abilities, let's do it. If we have not done it, let's have the sense to go back to God and say, God, I missed it here. I ask for forgiveness. Help me to get it right. Make peace with God. Then let's journey forward. It's a relationship. It's not a perfection journey. It's a journey of God who loves us. Yeah? Ni hayo tu kwa sasa. I'm joking. Yeah. So, thank you, Nabi.
Excuse me, let me just add something.
Yes.
What I felt I had when Ryan was asking her question.
Yes.
Because when she was asking this question, it's a question I keep hearing young people asking and walking into.
Yes.
I think when you are pursuing a relationship and the standard is this person is born again, and you know what born again is given their life to Christ. And being born again, really there are no gauges. There's no gauge 1, 2, 3 up to 10. You've just given your life to Christ, you've given your life to Christ. You're submitted to Christ, you're submitted to Christ. So I think a young man or a young woman should have as her first standard getting a person who is born again, period. But the folly that I find young people fall into is gauging themselves using other standards. Yeah? And for example, when you start saying, when somebody asks you questions until you start asking yourself, is this person a bishop? In my view, they're just asking about activities. And if somebody is having a lot of activities in church, it doesn't mean that they are a deeper believer than the person who's quiet. Yeah? So I think as a young person, you must go out for how deep is this person with Christ, what is their character. And sometimes character does not translate to activity. Yeah, you can be attending so many prayer meetings and attending, going for missions and doing so much, but your character is wanting. We've dealt with many who are very active, but they are not made for good husbands, and good wives. So when I listen to your question, that's what I hear. Yes, that's what I hear. And that's what I see a lot of young people fall into. A lot of young people are not focusing on the character and how surrendered this person is to Christ. They are focusing on activity and outward things which do not translate to how deep or how strong a Christian this person is. So in my view, if I'm born again, I'm born again. There are no gauges. Those gauges are all man-made. And if somebody is telling you, is this person born again like this? Like for example, I remember when we were in courtship, when we were young, there used to be a fad amongst believers that you must be courting with somebody who is in the worship team. Or somebody who is the mom or the chairman of a certain committee. You see, yet in the same fellowship there were deep believers who were quiet. And by the way, we followed them up through life. These guys are deep, but they were not out there, they're not seen. So that's where the gauges come from. Gauge 1, gauge 2, gauge 3, they are non-existent. Just go for the heart of the person.
Yes.
Just to add to what Emmanuel said, it's submission to Christ.
Yes.
The level of submission they have to Christ will tell you how much submitted they will be to you, and how the relationship will flow.
Yes.
Because if they don't walk in the Spirit, there will be challenges.
Wow. Thank you. Dr. we are fine? Thank you very much. Yeah. You'll notice the leanings. I like what Ms. Governor mentioned and what our very first lady here has mentioned about the redirecting the whole thing to God. Because ultimately, I like what you mentioned about bishop, but those titles are for work out there. It's not for the relationship. You never bring that home. That's for service. It's not for husbanding or wifing. Yes? Yes. Homing, when you are at home, you are a husband. Yeah. Now, and Mama Jer, how are you? She's very tickled. It's a prophetic laugh. Yeah. You're not husband. You don't bishop at home in that sense. Husbanding and bishoping. Yeah. Anyway, but the point is this. The point is this, that the activities that we see and the titles and what we see out there, some of them could be for service to the kingdom, but it's not for the person as a husband. Yes. So that if they're not submitted to God, you will still end up on the rocks. You still end up on the rocks. Yeah. Thank you very much. That is, I think we have enough wisdom on that. Let's not dilute it. Tutaharibu, especially after First Lady has spoken. Yes. Cindy. This one, a memo will come, but it's okay. But she's looking very fine. She's looking very fine. Number one, I know. Bernard, when the memo comes to, when he tells you to type the memo, hold on to it. So that it doesn't go for signature. But she's looking super fine. Thank you very much. Now, you can see the presumptions that some and different and variants of perceptions, and if you don't sometimes engage, I can think I'm on the right path when I'm not right. I might be on the path, but not at the center of the path, right? And if you're not at the center of the path, if I just do a small slip off, I get off, right? Yeah. So, thank you for that wisdom. I don't think we'll finish the questions because I can see time moving. Wow. There's a controversial one here. In Jesus' name. Okay, let me jump to number... Who was number 9? Pardon? Number 5. Sorry, Bernard. Bernard is agitating for something. Bernard is agitating for a particular one. Who was number 9? You do have number 9. Okay. Do you want to take a glass of water first?
Hi, Church. My name is Vivian Kenyatta. Question number 9. How would you handle this? A person of the opposite sex walks to you and tells you that God has told me to marry you.
Or if it's King James, he says, "Thus saith the Lord."
On my side,
Yes.
I'll tell the person that you should wait first. I go and fast and pray. I wait upon the Lord to tell me the same thing. It's not. I can't get married, but if it's yes, I will accept the proposal.
Okay. Wow, that's a good one. Listen. Yes. Daktari, you seem to be very popular. Kwanza, you're putting on red, and the mic is red. Yes. But nevertheless, let's hear your take. You will say no.
First of all, I think I'd be offended. Yes. Because why do you have to put it that way? Yeah.
Akukatie?
Yes. Think about it. Just think about it. We are both Christians, right? If we are both Christians, by the time we become friends, you tell me one day, by the way, the Lord had spoken to me about you. But if you come with the Lord, what are you hiding? Yes. Come with yourself.
Now, men, if your application failed, that might partly explain why. Okay, thank you for that response. Thank you, Daktari, for that. Any Joyce? Joyce is very... Hi, Joyce. Joyce is ready to answer that one. Thank you, Joyce.
If God can talk to you as an unbeliever, then he can talk to me as a believer. So he has to tell me before he can get married.
Okay, he has to talk to you as well. Awesome. Now, men. Seems men are on the receiving end on this. If God tells you, this is a girl you'll marry, is that the same as God tell her? No, I mean, Kwanza, professor is here. People who set exams. That's how people fail exams. That's how people fail exams. God tells you, this is the girl you'll marry. Is that an instruction for you to go and tell her?
No.
Yeah?
God is telling you,
And the Rusha game. Please, those who don't know what Kurusha game is, put together an offering go to Nelson, ask for permission, and then walk across to Kendi. You'll be told what Kurusha game is. Yeah? Yeah. But, yes.
Sorry, I just want to contribute to that conversation.
Yes, thank you.
If God told me to tell you
Yes.
that you're going to be promoted,
Yes.
do you expect me to tell you?
No.
If God told me to tell you He's going to give you a car,
Yes.
do you expect me to tell you?
Yes.
So the day God tells me that you're going to be my
That's okay. Okay. That's a good one. That's a good one. No, okay. Yes. Again, people. Again, you listen what he said. Eh? No. Did you listen? Did you hear what he said? God told me to. Exactly. It's a different things. It's different from being told this is a girl, and then you go 6 a.m. She's not woken up. You knock her door. But if God has told you, honestly, if God has told you, you know He can mop up the mess. Eh? You can go and say. If He has told you, go tell her. You better go and tell her as an act of obedience. If He hasn't, have the sense. There is this account in 2 Kings. Elisha, I can't remember the chapter. Elisha hosts this. There is widow who used to host Elisha, and at some point I think she was barren. Then he prays for her. She gets a baby, and then the baby dies. And she says she decides to go to Elisha because this baby came from Elisha. Said this matter must be resolved by him. And when she shows up, now, when she shows up before Elisha, he says, she is distressed, but the Lord has not told me what it is. Now, this is the same Elisha in, I think, chapter 6 of 2 Kings. The king of Syria would say, who is on the side of king of Israel? And then one of his servants says, even what you say in your bedchamber, Elisha knows. So there are things God will tell Elisha, and there are things God will not tell him. God decides, right? Now, if God has not... Now, when she's coming, Elisha doesn't know. Yet there are things about the king of Syria, which he's discussing with his small committee, that God will tell him. All of them are a function of his relationship with God. But whichever way, if God has not told you, have the sense to inquire, right? But the bottom line is that listen to God, be submitted, relate with God. Yeah. Because if God has told you she's, and I like what they mentioned, the two of them, that God, if God told you, He must tell me. I think it's only fair, isn't it? Because it's not, you can't be in on His word. You have to be in on your word as well. God must tell you. Because those of us who are married, okay, let me speak for myself. Yeah. This journey can have a bit of turbulence. Okay, sometimes a little bit more than a bit. Right? Yes? And what keeps you going might be the assurance that you made the right decision. That you didn't, that, in life you'll meet characters, Before you landed on this one, you knew other people. And you don't want to be there in a tough situation wondering, will it have been better if it had been? Because if you're living in that, that's how divorces occur, isn't it? People say, no, I think, let me shut this one down. I start another one. Yes, forgetting that all balls are round. So if you quammered in third year, guess what? You'll crank the other one, get to third year, then you'll again get stuck. Because all balls are... Yes. Okay, some have not understood that, but... Yes. The dynamics of any relationship are fundamentally the same. Yes? If you cannot work through one, chances are that you can't work through the next. And that's why statistics confirm that any person who breaks out of one is more than likely to break out of the next. In fact, more than, is it 50% more likely? Yeah. Is it? I don't know. Okay. The experts are there. They know. But those are the statistics out there. So if you can't work out the first one and you walk out, your guarantees of working out the second one has diminished. It means that likely you'll work harder in the next one just to surmount the same issues. Professor, how are you? Hey, good to see you. Please listen to his English first.
Can I show you I'm not affected by the air at Heathrow. I wanted to draw attention to that question again.
Yes.
Because I think it points to something more serious. The people who get marked by prophetic words, and it may not even be from a guy saying that God has told me. We are lucky to be here, but there are places where some churches are extremely manipulative. Some denominations are twisted. And the in-house prophet could come and say, this is your husband and this is your wife. And such places don't have the liberty. People don't have the liberty to go against that establishment. So the question is, what happens, I guess, if we were to have, we're a bit lucky to be here where there's a bit of sobriety 99% of the time. But what if such a person comes to you and says that our local church prophet has told me that this is supposed to be my husband? He's been marked by that one. And we don't know the prophet.
Yes. Mrs. Wakili has a weighty word there.
Hi, church.
Hi.
The thing I want to say is, just because God said it doesn't mean the marriage will automatically work. The prophetic word and the marriage are two different things. Interestingly, in our relationship, I'm the one who heard from God, not him. Okay? Yeah, I really like to. And 10 years later, he's still doing it. Yeah? But for me, I am because people think women don't hear from God. I'm the one who heard from God. And it's because I had been worked on and thrashed by relationships. I got into the place and said, God, unless you pick out a man for me, I'm not boarding. Yeah. I'm not boarding. So that's one thing. So God spoke to me. But even if God spoke to me, God didn't make me walk down that aisle. It was still a choice, isn't it? I still had to obey and agree with God and walk down that aisle. After walking down that aisle, I still had to work out my marriage. It wasn't traumatic. It's been 10 years. I have had a lot of growing up in that relationship. So I just want to emphasize that hearing God's word really helped me more than him because of where I was coming from. So you have to ask yourself, what are my fears? Where am I coming from? Why do I need this word? Do I need this word so that everybody can clap for me? No, I needed the word for myself so I can walk in with peace. But that doesn't mean that the marriage is automatically going to work. Actually, there are couples who've never heard from God and their marriage is thriving. There are those who've had 3 words and their marriage is in chaos. Why? Because you still have to work it out. You still have to work it out. Marriage depends on the couple. So we have had to grow up, but me more than him really have to grow into my vows, grow into character, be whipped and slashed, nothing to do with the word, just growing into the marriage. So we have to separate the spiritual element and its role and the natural element. Okay? I had to fall for the man, not the prophetic word. I had to fall for the man. Who is this man? What's his character? I remember as I was thinking about him, what I felt for the most was how he treated people who had nothing. And that's character. You know, I remember with him and all the watchmen in Nairobi knew him, all the workers, all the workers, he's loyal, He's loyal. You know, I mean, Ash used to walk from Koinange house to where I'm catching a man. I couldn't say in Nairobi, you know. And we'd go for lunches and dinners. He'd always, not dinners, we couldn't afford. Let's say we used to go for kachai down here at Sebuleni. He'd always tip the waitress. That's what I fell for. Not the word actually came much later. And to be honest, it's not the word that has kept us as much. It's his character. If halfway through he turned to be somebody else and started beating me up and wrapping me up, that word will not keep me in that marriage. I'm sorry. Because I don't think it pleases God to live in abusive, mean, terrible marriage. And they are very spirit people who are as mean as a snake. Mean! You know, they don't support their families, they don't support their wives, but they are very prophetic. So we have to separate the role of the spirit. No, let's be honest, guys. Separate the role of the spiritual and the role of the natural. Asante sana.
Can I add something?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Let me just weigh one or two things. When you hear a word from God, it must transcend the hearing of the word. So it transcends from the spiritual, it must come to the soul, and also to the physical. So you should not just remain at the spiritual. That's why I agree with Kendi. Yeah, that the word in itself will not keep you. And then secondly, just an advice for the young men in the house. When you hear God telling you that this is your wife, or this is the person you're going to go, it's not wise to just jump immediately and go to tell them, God has said you're going to be my wife. That's not wise at all. Unless it's an express instruction. Unless it's an express instruction to go and tell them, thus says the Lord, you're going to be my wife. Yeah? And this is why I normally tell ladies, I normally tell anybody you interact with, be deep with God. Yeah, everybody should be deep with God, so that nobody just dupes you, saying that God has said you're going to be my husband, or God has said you're going to be my wife. Even me, I can hear for myself. Yeah, so we must not be manipulated by prophets. We must not be manipulated by prophetic words. We must also realize that we are also prophetic, and we can hear from God for ourselves. So sisters, hear for God for yourselves. And also, us brothers, let's hear God for ourselves. So when I hear God saying that you're going to be my wife, brothers in the house, I think the wisest thing for you to do is to start creating the environment. Yeah, start, like what JR was saying. You know, it sounded like a joke, but I think that's what you should do. Anza kumkatia. So start creating that environment so that by the time, even before you say God said, she will already know. She will say yes before you even say it. In fact, afterwards is when you say, one day the Lord spoke to me.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have enough wisdom on that. A minute for Mrs. Governor. Yes. We are operating like British Airways today, so. Thank you.
I just wanted to bring a different angle to that question. There is the difference between our desires and God's will. And at times, in our prayers, in our supplications, we make our desires and conclude it to be God's will. Therefore, we make wrong conclusions. And I come and tell you my desire and my will as opposed to really hearing God. Probably when God has told me, but because that is really not what I want, and I really want you, I'll use God. Yeah? And I think that's why it is important to have our spiritual antennas high and sharp, and have our own relationships with God. I had an experience, and for me, this guy actually fell sick. He came, he told me, he has prayed, not this one. I think I was in year 3, I think, he's in year 4. So this guy came and told me that he has been praying and God has told him he's to marry me. And I think those days, God has worked on me now. You know, I found it so funny, I laughed so loudly. and the guy looked at me like, yeah, you know, you're in the CU, you're Christian, and me, I'm like, really? God has told you? Me? Yes, me. You know, you look at yourself and then you look at this guy. Not that the guy was bad, but then he was handsome, everything. But it just didn't resonate. The next thing I knew, the guy was actually hospitalized in the sick bay. university. I actually fell sick. And you know what he said? He said that Lydia has to go and see him. So for me, I found it, all these were very, very funny. So you know in Campo you have your clique of girls and stuff, and you know you talk and then you laugh. So we went. So I actually went. So I asked him, how are you? He's saying, yeah, he's doing very well, but now that he has seen me, he's fine. So what's my point? My point is, ladies and even men, just know that if you're hearing, is it really God saying it? Or is it your desires being spoken out louder? Right?
Yes.
And what I know is that the Lord confirms His word by more than 2 or 3 witnesses. And it cannot be God has said, and it's being forced down on your throat or being forced down on my throat because God has said. He will give you peace with that decision.
Amen.
And He will also speak to you. So please be wary. This world is a confused world.
Wow. Awesome.
With your kind permission, Chairman, can I just add to what she said?
Yes, he's my bishop in matters legal, so it's bad manners to deny him, right?
I just want to quickly note that marriage partner is second to giving your life to Christ. I think a marriage partner is the second most important decision you make. And I think we should not date for the sake of it looking cute, for the dating's sake. You know, because it looks cute to my friends, it looks cute to the church or to the bishop or whoever it is. We should think about it in the long term. Date with a marriage in mind. So you're asking yourself, is this the kind of person I'll be happy to submit to for the rest of my life? Because we're submitting to each other, isn't it? And then ask yourself, secondly, is this going to be potentially a great father to my children, a great wife to my children? I keep saying that, a great mother to my children. I keep saying that, and I'm sorry I'm biased on this, but especially for ladies, the person you marry is the most important career decision you'll ever make. Same for the guys, but not so much as it is important for the ladies. Because I've seen so many ladies' potential completely being crumbled, or their future completely, because this person becomes the leader of your life in every respect. That's all I'd say.
Wow, thank you. I think that's very enriching wisdom. I want us to move to the final question. That's question number 5. Pardon? He's reading. He's reading. Oh dear. Thank you. Oh, okay.
So the question reads, what is your advice on handling a relationship breakup?
Yes, and we are quiet.
What is your advice on handling a relationship breakup? Okay. I have had breakups, so what is my advice? First of all, I'd like to find out why did we break up? What led to the breakup? Because all relationships that we have are opportunities that are given to us by God. So I'd like to know, why are we breaking up? And then, as in genuinely, why am I being left? Or why am I leaving? I think that would be a good question to answer so that I can pick lessons from there. I think. Genuinely, just, like that you can have a meeting with yourself and genuinely pick lessons as to why did this relationship break up, and then learn from them, and then let go. I think if you feel it cannot be repaired, let go. That's what I think. And I wrote down here 2 things to help me let go. Is drop the offense. Drop the offense. Just drop it and move on. Yeah, just drop it, forgive that person, or forgive yourself if it was you who did the wrong thing. Drop it and forgive. If it is a relationship, like, is it possible to break up with your father? I don't know. There are some relationships which you cannot move on from, especially like if you had a child, it would be difficult. But you have to drop the offense, I think. I think that would be good advice, to drop the offense and then to move on without baggage. I think sometimes we carry the baggage to the next relationship and we still have the things that were haunting our hearts. We carry them into the next relationship and then we sabotage it even before it begins. So I think drop the offense, move on without baggage. I think that would be my advice. Find out why did you break up, genuinely learn, drop it, drop the offense, and move on without baggage. Yes.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. You can see the conciseness of the presentation. Then summary. So if you didn't get it, even I can't help you. Anybody else who wants to make a comment on that before I pick somebody? Rael has a weighty comment. In a minute. I'm on borrowed time now.
I don't think mine would be really a comment in respect to that. But in addition to that, yes, it's if you're a person who moves on quickly, you're able to do the math she has talked about and move on. But for me, I would look at what is born later, that maybe you pass on, and there's a fear that comes. Like when she said, if God, you're not going to choose for me, then I am gone, because sometimes it comes with fear of opening your life again to someone, not knowing whether they are coming to hurt you. So for me, that is a question of maybe how to deal with such kind of things. When, yes, you want it, but you are afraid. I am not ready to open my heart. Or I'm not, there's that level, Mecca, you don't want someone to go beyond that boundary, because you fear being hurt again, you fear being betrayed again, you fear all things that hurt you in the past.
Wow. That's real. The fear. You don't want to be hurt again. Anybody else? Danny here for a minute. You can actually use this.
Okay. I just want to add. Sometimes when thinking of a breakup, we're thinking of people breaking up with us. But sometimes we initiate the breakup. And I think we need to be kind. That when you're breaking up, think, do unto others as they will do unto you. There's a reason why you're breaking up. It may be very valid. You realize you're in a wrong relationship. Seek advice. Make sure you do it as a Christian.
It's finished.
Relationships, considering maybe you might have done some good investments in this relationship, and therefore at the point of breaking up, let's be honest, people will be hurt. And in this regard, there's one person who was not ready, and there's another person who has been processing this info, only to come one day and download. And therefore, that other person, I think, to a good extent, will be hurt. But this other person they will be hard too, because relationship, there are things to do with things, souls being tied up together emotionally. And hence, breakups are, to a good extent, they are messy. But I agree with them in terms of handling it. I think we need to be careful. But I was looking for the aspect of, even after the breakup, there are people who want to break up this, and because they have been processing this thing, the way it will work out, they want at the same time to connect with the next. As in, you're moving from this bus and connecting to number 33 immediately. I think that's evil. That's evil. And if you're a Christian, you need to really question your Christianity and your relationship with God. Because I think much as we are spiritual, we need to develop social skills. Yeah? So that we connect both, because a disconnect of the same will cause so much hurt. So my aspect will be, my opinion will be, if you have seen this relationship is not going to work, and you have processed that information, be kind enough and be gracious enough and tender even in delivering the information. Yeah. And therefore, don't so that you don't cause more hurt by the way you deal with this that you've seen is not going to work.
Anytime in any relationship that you are in, whether it is for marriage or just a relationship with any other person, please take care of people's hearts. Please take care of people's hearts. This is not just about the person you're going to marry. This is the person you're relating with each and every day. People's hearts are precious to God. So take care how you treat people. This is something that God has given me such an understanding for that. I mean, people are hurt. We make people walk in shame. We make people walk dejected. We make them walk with their face down just because of how we treated them. And why? Because we just did not treat them right. The second thing that God has shown me concerning relationship, relinquish your right to be the one to punish people. No matter what anybody has done to you, you leave them to God to punish them. Do not make it your business to punish them. If you're in a marriage, someone has mistreated you, don't be the one who says, Ataniona, Don't be the one who says he can't see their children. Don't be the one who does those things to punish the person, because that person still needs to find God. And you need to give them that opportunity to find God by being kind to them. So relinquish every right you have to punish anybody, be it your dad, be it your mom, be it your sister, be it your friend. Leave the right of people being punished for the wrongs they've done to God. Those are things that God has made so clear to me, because in this life that we live, we have so much entitlement. Well, she was unkind to me, so don't be unkind to her. Be kind to her. Be the one who steps up and makes what God has intended for life to be. Don't be a contributor to the things that God is trying to help people deal with by punishing people. Don't punish them. Because at the moment there's someone that I know who is in a deep hole because somebody wanted to punish them. And man, they went deep, Somebody who was in church, somebody who was serving God. Today you look at them, they're so dejected and so affected. Why? Because somebody rejected them, and on top of rejecting them, wanted to punish them. So do not take the role of being the one who punishes. Instead, by God's grace, love that person. Love that person. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think we're talking about relationships, but I'm just going to say generally, any exit you make in life, whether it's from a boss, an organization, a relationship, must be done with honor. Must be done with honor. As a Christian, we are called to honor others. So how you leave places, not just relationships, is important to God. How you leave places, jobs, bosses, Neighborhoods. God is interested. Homes. You've left a house badly. Repair it. Yeah? Don't leave a place that dishonors God. Yeah? Any exit you make, one thing God has taught me is honor. Honor is important because that's what makes you honorable as well. Yeah? Even if the boss did you wrong. I had a boss who did me wrong. But you must honor that person up to the last day. He or she is your authority. So you've got to do it right. Yeah? So young people, don't walk away from jobs without properly relinquishing your roles. It's not right in God's eyes because that is a character trait. Exits show us who you really are. Yeah? The way you leave places, the way you leave churches, the way you leave homes, any part of your life where you've got to exit well and leave it with honor.
Wow. Such rich wisdom, you know. You know, it's easy to forget that relationships cut across life, right across. I remember, it's called, forgetting his name. Okay, doesn't matter. He was teaching us on finances here, and he said, poverty is not absence of resources. Poverty is a sign of failed relationships. So poverty is purely, you don't have, you just need to look around at the relationships around you. That's it. That's it. The relationships are not working. It simply means that because if they're working, you're not sleep hungry. Somebody will come and knock and pick you from the streets and feed you and house you if your relationship is working. Yes? So thank you, Christine, for that. I think for me that's awesome. Then finally, I requested Kendi to have a word on that because that's part of her area.
I think what Christine said is so profound. How you leave an employer has such an effect on the next job you go to. I think many of us can testify to that. If you live well, there's sort of a grace that follows you. When I was on air on Friday, my former employer tweeted me, you know, and I was like, what, doctor, you even remember me? But imagine if I had left with my nose in the air and called him names. Meanwhile, we didn't have the best of relationships, but when I was leaving, I had a big thank you card to the entire organization. And I went and I said thank you. And I gave notice. No, just leave without notice. Madarao, just, no. Leave notice, do the right thing. So I think what she's saying is absolutely true. But my area, that's her area, work. My area is relationships. So what I'd want to say about, what I've seen a lot in counseling when people go through breakups is the lost hope. And so some people cling on to the past because if you break up without hope that you'll meet someone better, you'll never close that door. So I keep telling my clients, leave knowing there's someone better ahead of you. If you don't, they keep on leaving that door open. And they know they call them old flames for a reason. It's called an old flame, isn't it? So here you are, no, he's my ex. Why are you having dinner with your ex? Why are you having dinner with your ex? That means you're still fanning that flame. And you're fanning that flame because you don't believe there's a better man ahead for you. That is the truth. The fear of being abandoned, the fear that there's nobody better ahead is what keeps people in very bad relationships for the longest time. So I would say this. If you're going to leave, first do a postmortem on that relationship. Just like Edith said, what was my role in this relationship? What did I do to make it worse or bad? And secondly, what need was being met by this man? Many times we are looking for God in men and looking for God in women. So it's only when you postmortem the relationship, then you're like, okay, I had a fault in this relationship. Secondly, accept. She said forgive, but then forgive and accept. Accept, and I dated an idiot. Rotu Safi, I dated an idiot. I was foolish. I didn't know better. I had a child with him. I had a child with her. Rotu Safi, accept what you cannot change. Okay? It helps. Well, forgiveness is one thing. Accepting that there is another. And many times we teach forgiveness, but whenever I teach about accepting, accept. This is, my eggs are scrambled. I can't come say, now I want boiled eggs. No, scrambled eggs are scrambled eggs. So I would say that accept, postmortem, be willing to date again. Be willing to date again. There's a lot of healing in relationships, in good relationships. I remember Pastor once said, let your marriages be a place of healing. honestly, I don't think many of us got married when we were perfect. So I don't think we should also implore or impose perfection on people who are single. None of us got married when we were perfect. Many of us have really grown within the marriages. We've grown spiritually. I've grown in the marriage. I've seen my husband grow in the marriage. Don't look at us who are married and say, we should get married looking like this. No, you should have seen me 10 years ago. You should have seen Christine, how many years ago? 20 years ago. 23 years ago, before she punches me in the face. So many of us have grown to be who we are today, but we didn't start there. So as you pick a mate, they won't look put together. They won't look. I remember when God told me to marry Ash, I was like, hey, surely God, of all the men in this city, you know? And it's because he didn't look like he looks today. But he's grown into the relationship. He's grown in the marriage. So I know I've diverted a bit from courting, but close those doors. There's a reason you broke up with that person. Close those doors. Tell my clients, write a list why you broke up with this guy. Because you'll have bad days and good days. When things are bad, you go, he was like, okay, sawa. If you need to stick it on your fridge, stick it on your mirror, stick the reason why you walked away. Because there's a reason. Otherwise, they are called an old flame for a reason. Ukipepeta tafanya nini? Itawaka. And I don't think you want to work up a fire that you actually put out. Yeah, that's it.
Now, wow, thank you so much. Very, very insightful. Now we must conclude. I just say one or two things in conclusion. Let me pull back a bit. Let me put it in context. There's something Jared shared about 2 weeks ago. I know they are far apart, but I can see a little bit of relationship. That there is where I am and there is where God expects me to be. Right? Because that's a setting relationship. Of all relationships, if that's working, it has a cascading into the others. Right? Whether it's with my wife, with my friends, with my bosses, with my employers, employees, workmen, business associates, and whatnot. It starts by it's determined first and foremost by how robust is my relationship with God. If that's not in place, look, we'll go around in circles. We'll go around in circles. On Friday, is it Thursday or Friday? Pastor was teaching us about. He even got us to sing. Bernard, did we know he can sing? We didn't know. Hey, Pastor is awesome. I'm telling you, he got us to sing. Those who are not there, you missed. Yes. Anyway, where I'm going with this is that every person. I'm borrowing his words, has a fragrance. Every person has a grace. Every person has a light. Every person, today in the morning I was listening to Apostle Kure. He says, every person has an oil. It's like an anointing. So that every relationship also has a grace, it has a fragrance, it has a light, it has an oil. And if we do not sort of work out our salvation with fear and trembling with God, then that grace, that light, that fragrance will not come out. So we not only deny ourselves, but we deny the people who should benefit from those relationships. The truth is this far we've come has largely been a function of the relationships God has brought in our lives. Yes? God does not send angels to deal with these things. He uses the next person, and the next person, and the next person to be where we are. So that fragrance, the working out that fragrance is a must for us. There's this scripture, I think, Genesis 27 through 29. Isaac is blessing his children. He's blessing the wrong person, but he says concerning Jacob, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord hath blessed. Then he says, therefore, let the dew of heaven sort of come down. Yes? Therefore, God gives you the dew of heaven. It's as if the blessing is coming because of the fragrance that he has. And so that if we don't sort out first that relationship with God, then that fragrance will not come out. Then the blessing called the dew of heaven will not come out. And so we miss it out. And so that when Lydia says that, spend time with God, when Christine says, be submitted to God, is such an integral part of sorting out our relationship. They are not separate. It's part and parcel. As we sort out ourselves, we're able to get sorted out. What Linda mentioned about, being gracious, and so may call it being kind as you exit relationships. All those are a function of who you are already on the inside. If you have turbulence on the inside, you will live like a storm. And we've seen that. Yes? We've seen people, you've lived with people for years. Then one day, they just went, you think they're coming back, Sunday evening, you think they're coming back on Monday. They don't show up. You call, the phone is off. Then later on, Tuesday, they say, Sisirudi. You've been living with people, you've been eating their food, you've been enjoying free accommodation, surely it's, right? But it's a function of what it is on the inside. It's a function of what it is on the inside. In Hebrews, I think, 5:12, it says, for the time you ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again the first principles of the oracles of God. Meaning you are not there. And you've become as such as have need of milk and not strong meat. So even as we work on our relationships, the conglomeration of what you've learned here is more of a symptom. But we must work first on that relationship, because if that is working, the rest works. If that is working, the rest falls in line. If that is working, the rest will have to work. We don't have the resources to love people. Of ourselves, we don't. We don't. I can tell you, we don't have our resources to handle relationships. It's God who supplies those resources. So if we need to spend time in the Word, we had better do that. It's not going to work. If you have to spend time praying, we had better do that. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If we need to hang around people and learn from them. The essence of all this engagement is that, look, in here we have a huge pool of wisdom. You should not get stuck on relationships. When you have Mamio here and you have Christine here and you have Kinadani here, we have enough people. We have there's a huge, yes, you have Daktari there. Yes? Seriously. Yeah. Have we been, have we learned something today?
Yes.
Are we more school today? Yes. We are better than when we started? Yeah. So, so let's pursue God, but let's also seek. I like what Danny mentioned last Sunday about, walking clear of offense, which I think she also mentioned. Walking clear of offense. There are two things that work in relationships. Two things: love, but there can be no love without forgiveness. Meaning, if you're in a relationship, those of you who have been married for long know that you'll forgive and forgive and forgive. And it says, how many times Peter came and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive? Yes. He should have asked, in marriage, Lord, how many times do you forgive? He'll have been told, okay, 70 times 7, then in brackets. Those of you who did mathematics, Professor, you put 3. Yes. Bodmas, right? Yes, Bodmas. You put 3. And sometimes in brackets you put 7. Yeah, so 70 times 7, then in bracket 7. Yes? Yeah. Hey, you're saying 12, and you not cross the road. What don't we know? Oh. Hey, Kumbe, there's something happening, eh? In Jesus' name. The register of weddings for next year, we've added one more. Yes, we've added, yes. I know there are weddings you're expecting next year. Yeah, so they know themselves. Thank you. They don't look at me. In Jesus' name.